The European Union has decided to provisionally apply its long-awaited free trade deal with the South American bloc Mercosur, even as the European Court of Justice reviews its legality, a process that could take up to 2 years. Designed to lower tariffs and boost trade, the EU agreement with Argentina, Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay was signed in January after 25 years of negotiations. Germany has strongly backed the deal, but France opposes its implementation, saying it could expose EU farmers to unfair competition. President Emmanuel Macron called the provisionally application a bad surprise for France.
France, this came as a surprise and an unwelcome one. And for the European Parliament, it's a discourteous way of doing business. In any case, as far as we're concerned, we will remain vigilant and we'll ensure that what we have fought hard to negotiate over these past few months is respected.
Emmanuel Macron speaking there. Now let's bring in DW's Tessa Walther to talk us through this from Brussels. Tessa, this deal has finally been ratified by the first Mercosur countries, Argentina and Uruguay. That's a good first step. And now provisionally applied by the Commission, but only provisionally. And why has it taken so long?
Yeah, absolutely. 25 years is quite a record time for a deal to be brought over the line. And I can tell you from a Brussels European correspondent perspective, it's sometimes hard to sell these kind of trade stories, but this really has read like a soap opera. We had back and forth for years. We had struggles between member states. And then last year, it finally came to a closure. We all thought the deal was about to be signed. But then it was again France that came in and pushed back, saying that it had concerns over farmers, unfair competition. And then in January, it finally happened. On the 17th in Paraguay, the deal was signed. All parties were pretty happy, celebrating. And then just a few days later, the European Parliament comes in and says, no, it wants this deal to be reviewed, sending it to EU's top court. And that decision obviously meant, again, oh, this is pushed back. What does this mean? There was a lot of turmoil here in Brussels. And then the European Commission decided, OK, once they start ratifying this deal in South America, then we will also accept it and provisionally apply it here in Europe. And that means they didn't want to seem like this lame duck anymore, right? After all this back and forth, they wanted to show the world, OK, we are ready to take on this deal and we're going to go forward with it.
But the ruling at the EU's top court is still pending. So what happens now? How is it provisionally being applied?
So that means that this provision is in place. And as we heard, it might take 2 years for the ruling to come through. But this is actually not the first time such a provisional application is taking place here for international deals. Also, in the meantime, every member state and all but basically South American members of Mercosur, once they ratify the deal, they can benefit from its merits. So the trade deal is basically put in place now and can be used. But what we obviously need to wait for is the court's ruling. What are we expecting from this ruling? Well, I've talked to some experts before the show, and they were telling me they are not expecting that they will actually kill the deal. There might be some legal amendments made, but they won't kill the entire deal. What we also see is still these safeguards that have been put in place. So some of these safeguards could also change, meaning that farmers might find a different regulation for them to protect them better. That was especially France's concern. But this is probably a set deal and here to stay.
But this deal has put France and Germany, Europe's two big tectonic plates, if you will, on a collision course. Will the benefits of this deal outweigh this kind of conflict?
That's definitely the top question here in Brussels at the moment. And to answer this question, let's just zoom out a bit. When we look at the economic situation of Europe in recent years, it's been quite a bleak picture. Growth has been sluggish, and long-lasting trade partners that we've had for years, like the United States, are partners that we can't rely on any longer, right? So tariffs have been put in place and EU officials have been going around the globe to find new trading partners. So they went to India, for example, for a trade deal with them, and they have been pushing for this Mercosur deal to be brought over the line. And actually, this new dynamic has actually also changed the negotiations. So what we've heard from insiders is that the Mercosur South American countries realize that the Europeans now also need them, and they don't just need the Europeans. And just to give you a bit more detail, now that this has been brought over the line, what will we expect from the deal from a European side? For example, Brazil has rare minerals that Europe is very interested in. So for now, they are mainly importing them from China, which is a complicated issue if you also have a rivalry going on with this country. And they hope to find alternatives through Mercosur. The second part is car makers, European, but mainly German car makers are really hopeful to find new markets. They had a hard time selling their cars in the US and in China, especially in recent years. And there's a growing middle class in South America that they want to use as a new market. So this is what we're looking at here. But from the reactions that we've heard already, we can see that France is much less excited about today's deal than export-strong nations like Germany.
DW correspondent Tessa Walther there reporting from Brussels for us. Thank you, Tessa.